Hey team, how are we doing? Hope everyone's good. Like I said, I am expecting a slightly smaller group today, so I will talk, and if I can make myself the main background, I'm not going to play around with that because I don't have a clue what I'm doing. So I'll smash through it. Most people are obviously going to watch this back. I've already had some messages saying people are going to watch it back, but the main things that I want to talk about, smashing the last week, being careful of fatigue, and then of next week we'll talk about things like binge eating and things that can be often seen with obviously aggressive diets. So the first things that we'll do is being careful of fatigue and how to manage fatigue, because you've been dieting for a little while now. So the biggest thing when you're at this stage of a diet is fatigue and feeling tired and wanting to give up and wanting to get them little extra bits of food in, which is probably the last thing that we want going into this stage of a diet. So first things first, when we're going into these last stages, is before we start reaching for the biscuit tin, before we start reaching for more food, before we start thinking along them lines, we need to be thinking, are we doing the basics? Are we smashing out the normal things before we go and make any changes? Like if we're saying we're hungry, before we start saying we're hungry and we're not getting enough food, are we making the most out of our current numbers? So that's like your nutrients. So are your protein sources coming from leaner cuts of protein? Are your carbs coming from your fruit and veg and then your standard single ingredient foods? What I mean by that is like your rice, oats, potatoes. It's not already mixed in. And then is your fiber at 15, 20 grams a day? If that is all good, next thing to look at is your sleep. We've touched on this previously. Is sleep good? Because once sleep is impacted, you have two hormones, leptin and ghrelin, that can be unbalanced, and one triggers you to feel hungrier and the other one triggers your ability to feel full. Once them two are impacted together on a diet on low calories, that's a bad position to be in. So make sure we are preparing ourselves to sleep. Things that can impact sleep are obviously stress, dehydration. So make sure your water is good. Every person should be having 1 liter of water for every 25 kg they weigh. So if you weigh 50 kg, you should be having 2 liters, 75 kg, 3 liters, etc., etc. You want to be aiming for that 2+, 3+ liters of water a day for the most of you. And other things that, like, if you are really struggling with sleep, there's no right or wrong way in how to get to sleep. There are certain things that you can do, like if you're stressed or you've got a lot of things on your mind, write things down. But I'm no sleep coach, and I always find that it's what works best for you. So you can get on Google, TikTok, whatever it may be. Keep saying TikTok is the new Google these days. It is actually so much better. I feel like I'm a teenager again with these TikTok things, but I like it because it gives you the visualization as well. So there's literally people talking you through it. So talking like how to get to sleep on TikTok and all that will give you breathing methods. I've seen ones where people literally roll their eyes to make their eyes feel tired and fall asleep. So all of that helps you sleep. But on a diet, which we're on, the main part of sleep can come from obviously irritable because you're hungry and dehydration. So that's why I keep saying to you, and I repeat every single week, that nutrients and water are your two most important things on the diet. So let's all focus on that. Also with fatigue, you've got things like your output. So this last week, on the last week of your diet, you're probably not, despite everything I've been saying in the past, is you're probably not going to want to push yourself to the absolute limits with your training. You'd want to probably leave yourself maybe 1 or 2 reps in reserve at the least, because you've got to think about the impact of pushing yourself that hard. You want to make sure you're able to recover. For your last week of a diet, you're only as good as your recovery. The last thing you want to do is expend all your energy and feel like you need more food. So just bearing that in mind, things like pushing it or big supersets or like giving out your 1 rep max, or things such as higher impact like HIIT training, boxing, running, not the sort of things that I would encourage on a diet, especially towards the end. I would try and keep everything low intensity. So make sure your workouts are progressive, but in a manner that you're not pushing it to your absolute limit. If you can and you don't have an event on, I would drop running and keep all your, or like boxing or etc. And I'd keep your cardio down to incline walking. This is also very, very important post diet, because post diet, the first thing you want is more food. You're like, wow, I get all this extra food. I get, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all the things I've not been having. Again, this is so individualized because it depends on where you're at. If you're in a position where you've dieted properly and you've done something like a photo shoot, you'd probably give yourself a day or two where you can sort of eat what you want. If you are in a position where you want to carry on losing weight, again, you probably wouldn't go and smash a load of non-nutrient dense food, because it's probably going to leave you hungry, and then obviously you're not filling yourself up, and then bad habits start creeping in, which is the last thing you want on a diet. So just be aware of that. If you're unsure of what position you're in or what your goals are next, obviously message me. But the idea for this last week is to set yourself up for the following weeks. The idea is that you don't put yourself in a position where you're feeling hungry. You want to make sure you monitor your level this week. And then when food does increase, we're going to start with, and we'll talk about this more next week, start with trying to increase it through nutrient dense with the odd snack here and there, just so that we don't crash and reverse diet. So I'm not sure how many of you have been on other plans before, but most people have lost weight in the past. It's keeping it off that is the key. And this is why we've spoke about like further coaching. I know some of you have already signed up and things like that, but if I just share my screen and I want to show, because the thing when it comes to dieting, here's Ryan. Let me jump onto Ryan quickly. How do I move this? Here we go. So this was Ryan at the start of ELIMIN8. This was Ryan at the end of ELIMIN8. And then what we done, we went into some form of coaching. We gave him further accountability rather than less accountability. And this meant obviously he kept progressing and progressing, and he looks pretty good, to be fair. We've done the same with Kaylee. Kaylee, start of ELIMIN8. Kaylee is a mum and has done exceptional. End of ELIMIN8, done really, really well. Kaylee will openly admit in the past that obviously she's like led to snacks, and she started leaning to snacks. It often leads to overeating and less adherence. Got her in a position, done exceptionally well. So this is where, when we come to end of ELIMIN8, and if I get up one of the folders here, if I come and we go in, I've go into the spare folder here. You'll see if I just fill this in for myself quickly. 31, let's just go 75, like 170 step. And I put my steps in at 8,000. Coming off the back of a diet, you'll see here, week 8, food's come down. Week 9, food obviously increases, but you'll also see output decreases. So the idea is to make you less hungry whilst giving you more food so your body can reset. So just be aware of these things in your last week. You're setting yourself up ready to maintain weight so that you can be like Ryan, so that you can be like Kaylee. I've also had a message off a client this weekend, Leighton, a year between these two photos. So we started on ELIMIN8 a year ago. Year later, absolutely diced. So this shows you the importance of setting yourself up to keep making progress, because this is why I say ELIMIN8 is different to other group coaching programs, is that we do make sure you lose your weight. But the most important thing post a diet is you should have the knowledge to keep it off. So be aware of fatigue, be aware of the things I'm saying. So make sure, and I'm going to repeat it, this last week, your output is a little bit lower in terms of like your energy levels in intensity. So workouts, don't push it too hard. Don't do anything high intensity in terms of like running, boxing, etc. Focus on the things such as the easy wins. So that is going to be keeping tight to your protein, making sure your carbs and fats are quite neat. Don't go over your calories. Make sure you're getting your steps in. If you are doing any cardio, keep it to things like incline walking. Make sleep a priority. I know nights are a little bit lighter at the moment, but if you can get into a good sleep routine, try and get your 7 to 8 hours sleep. You're probably going to stop yourself being that little bit hungry, and you want to put yourself in the best position. And before you start saying you're hungry, have you looked at things like your water, your fiber, and all your nutrients? So that is the most important thing to do. Is everyone okay with that? Is anyone starting to feel a little bit hungry or starting to feel a little bit peckish and still not understanding what to do or how to make the most of their nutrients? Anyone on the call got any questions before I move on?
Yeah, me. So I'm back at shift now.
Yeah.
So I'm on my feet like a lot more, whereas before it was fine. I would just like eat. I wasn't getting as hungry, but now I'm back on shift. It's like it's like a constant thought process. Like, when am I next gonna eat? And I think that's how Pacific time.
Yeah.
So it is more just like brain goes into that like overdrive.
Yeah, sorry, Hannah, your connection's quite poor. I'm not sure if it's yours or mine. I think it might be yours. Yeah, so what I gathered from that is you're on shift. Do you have set times you can eat on shift or not? Like as in
No.
so it's eat when you can. So this is what I'll do.
Yeah,
So with shift, Hannah, so like the way this would work, and this works, and it goes for anyone who's not on shift as well, is we tend to sleep 8 hours. We tend to be awake 16 hours. So if you're awake 16 and you eat every 4 hours, you're having 4 meals a day. That would be every 4 hours. So upon waking 4 hours after, then 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours. So you're trying to work out what's best in that 16-hour period in terms of bringing down and working out your food. So let's just say normal work, let's just say it was a normal 9 to 5, right? Just for argument's sake here. If you were someone who had them shifts and you're working at 9, start working at 9, you'd maybe say have breakfast at 10. 4 hours later would be 2 o'clock. You'd maybe have your lunch. 6 o'clock, maybe have your dinner. 10 o'clock, a snack. That is spreading it out every 4 hours. But on shift work, I know that's not the case. And again, also, you can bring that down a bit. So you might be like 4 hours from your first one. So instead of having a snack at 10 o'clock, you might have it at 9 o'clock. You might have your dinner at like 6, but then you'd bring your lunch maybe to 1 o'clock. If you give yourself like an hour aside of that, you're putting yourself in that best position. And what you would try and do is you try and maybe put things within your day which make it a lot easier to do. So for example, if you needed something that took 5-10 minutes to cook in the microwave and then 5-10 minutes to eat, you're looking like you need a 20-minute gap. If you've got something like 0% Greek yogurt or overnight oats that's already made, that's something that might be like, right, just get down you high protein, full of nutrients, and you just make it a little bit more convenient to you. And it's working out, especially when you're on shift, is like from obviously you've got experience on shift as well, is like what works best. So you'll know, like, for example, on a night shift, say for example, you're waking up at on 9 to 5, you wake up at 8, and it's quite easy for you to go and have breakfast at 10 o'clock. But you might, when you start a night shift, you might have been awake all day already, and you'd have to start planning it around that. And it might mean that some of your meals before 12 o'clock are all ticked off for that day. And then from the next day, you start ticking it off. But like, does having breakfast at 2 in the morning work, for example, if you're on a night shift? and having yogurt work then? Or does it, like, your chicken and rice work better for you? And I can't really tell you that, but because it's subjective to you and what you like and but what I would do is maybe switch the meals round from a day shift to a night shift, and it might just work best for you. But if you try and aim for, right, this is the 16 hours that I'm awake, if I put my 4 meals in here, it might work. And one day it might be, right, might have one meal, say, on your night shift in the morning, then you go to sleep, and then you have 3 more meals that day, and then you take it over to the next day. And for you, it might just require that little bit more preparation. And if you think, like, say, for example, your lunch is in and around 2 o'clock, you would be able to work maybe your shift and be like, right, if I start this now or I go here now, I need to be somewhere around here for 2 o'clock. And you might be able to plan your days a little bit better. But don't worry if you're like half an hour either side. If you're meant to have lunch at 2 and you have it at 1:30, because you know if you don't have it at 1:30, you're not going to have it till 4 o'clock. That's what I have to do with my job as well. Like, some days I've got to eat at 11 o'clock. So I've got someone in at 11, 12, 1 and 2. And if it's like, if I don't eat at 11, I won't eat again till 3 o'clock. So it's just being that little bit prepared and little bit of like convenience. So like ideally, like in the morning, I'll always put someone in like 8:15 till 9. I'll never put someone in at 9 o'clock. I'll make sure my next person's in at 9:15. So I've got 15 minutes to make some porridge. And then if I know I can do the same at 12 o'clock, I won't put someone in at 12. I'll put someone in at 12:15, just so I've got that 15-minute gap. And I'll always have some convenience there. I'll always have like bananas, etc., in my drawer, squares, bars, yogurts, etc. Sometimes I'll have like 0% fat Greek yogurt where I can put the whey in, mix all my like nuts, seeds and that in. But sometimes I have them chocolate protein puddings just so I can get them down me just for the sake of it. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit of preparation, preparation and convenience. So anyone else with anything like that? But Hannah, I made you do that ideal week, like from the earliest day. Do that for your day shift and your night shift. So have an ideal structure of what you'd eat with times on your day shift, and have an ideal structure of what you'd have on your night shift. And then it will make sense. And remember, it can change. Yeah, perfect. So one of the other things that I want to talk about, because we haven't really touched on it, most of these topics have all been about food and mindset, motivation. One of the things following sort of Eliminate, and most people struggle with, is what to do next in terms of training and programming. There's no right or wrong way to do programming. It's how many sort of exercises you do. So in an ideal world, depending on the muscle group, you should be doing 12 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So how you split that is up to you. So you could do, for example, if you're doing full body, you could do 2 leg exercises one day, 3 sets of each one, and you can do that across 3 days. So that's, say we do, for example, 2 quad exercises Monday, 2 Wednesday, 2 Friday. That's 6 sets, 3 times 2. There's 18 sets on your quads. So you could put them all on one day. You could do a leg day where you do 3 quad exercises, 3 sets. There's nine sets there. So or you could do 6 exercises and there's 18. So it doesn't really make a difference to how you split your weeks. It is what's best for you. But in terms of programming, I'm going to give you another example here. I need to move this down here again. There's so much more terminology and experience than you would have seen on Eliminate. So here, this is, if I was to do a full body session, if I was to train 3 times a week, I'd probably do full body sessions, 3 full body sessions. If I was to do 4 days a week, if I was a female, I'd probably do lower, upper, full glutes, or upper, lower. For men, I would probably do upper, lower, or push, pull legs, full body. And this is an example of doing that. I've done push, pull legs, upper body, but I might even change that to like a leg press or a trap bar deadlift, just so you're hitting your legs twice a week. The idea of hitting muscle groups twice a week is that you're hitting that stimulus more often, so you're more likely to grow. So rather than the old sort of bodybuilding sort of structure where you do like a chest day, a back day, is it's this thing called the stress curve. So your body reacts better. So say this is the normal stress curve. You stress your body, the curve goes up, and just before it comes back to the baseline, you stress it again, and therefore you get more growth. So that's the idea of training muscles twice a week, in case people have seen like, don't do a bro split, make sure you're training things twice a week, is to do with stimulating the muscle more often. And then there's the argument and simple way of putting it that training a muscle once a week is you train it 50 times a year, training it twice a week, you train it 100 times a year. So what you're going to see more growth with training 100 times a year or 50 times a year. But in terms of exercises, you're probably in a position of 6 exercises per day, 6 to 8, and you want to do probably 6 to 12 sets per muscle group on that day. So here you'll see, so that tends to be like 3 to 4 exercises per muscle group on a day, and try and aim to do it again for like 1 to 2 exercises. So another 3 to 6 exercises in that week. So I won't go through all the exercises and what I've done there and how I've done it, but you'll see I've done 4 back exercises, 2 biceps. On the chest, I've probably done 3 or 4 chest, 3 chest, 2 shoulders, so 9. And then we've done 6 if I come down to the upper body day. So we just said done 9 there, 9 sets. That'll be 12 sets, and I'll probably have something else in chest here. There you go. 15 sets of chest plus drop sets and things like that. Shoulders, you've got extra shoulder sets there. So you're hitting the minimum requirement each week. And then you've got different terminology. So this is how we force further lines of progressive overload. So the best way to get muscle growth is to see progression. So when we say muscle growth, for men, obviously see this as like adding more muscle, because like using generic sort of terms that men and women use. Obviously, men are like, oh, I want to just grow more muscle and lose a bit of body fat. The more muscle you have at your weight, the less body fat you're going to have. So girls that often say, and this sounds sexist, a bit stereotypical, so feel free to shoot me for saying it this way, but just going at what I get on average from men and female, women tend to say I'd like to look more toned. The same thing is if you tend to try and get a better rate of muscle to fat at whatever weight you are, therefore your body fat is going to be less, so therefore you will look more toned. Guys, you will look more shredded, whatever you want to call the word. So it's you want to be looking at progressing and constantly progressing exercises and workouts. So the main ways to progress it are through weight and reps, which everyone's aware of. So for example, if we're using an exercise here, you may use, let me pick a bit more of a straightforward. So we'll go on the chest day. So you'll see here, there's different weights. So on the bench press, you might increase the weight every week. So you might start at 50 kg here, you might go 55 here, and you might go 60 here. So there's one way of increasing progression, because you're getting stronger every week by lifting more reps. On like another exercise, you may go through reps. So here for a dumbbell bench press, you might start on 20 kgs, you might go 22. So here you do 20 for 8. If I'd done 20 kg for 8 again here, I'm lifting the same weight for the same reps. There's no progression. So as the reps are the same, what I'm going to do is increase the weight. And then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the reps. So I'll go 22 kg for 9, 22 kg for 10. I'm increasing weight every week. We don't need to always do weight and reps, or we don't always need to force that extra sort of go up by 2. Going up by 1 kg is enough. So for example, if we were doing a leg press at 100 kg, so 100 kg for 10 reps, and then you go and do 100 kg for 11 reps, over 3 sets, you've already done 300 kilos extra volume. Add that over every exercise, you could be lifting the best part of a ton over the week before. That is a hell of a lot of volume. And if you've lifted an extra ton in one session across a week, you've got to think about your recovery. So don't overdo it when thinking about progression. Stick to the things that are quite simple. Either go up by 1 kg, 2 kg if it's in dumbbells, and go up by 1 rep. You might go 8, 9, 10, up the weight, but come back down to 8, 9, 10. And then you'll see I've got different forms of progression. So I've got there's someone else give me another form of progression in the chat which isn't weight or reps. Where's the chat? Anyone think of another form of progression that isn't weight or reps? Heart rate. Along the right lines there, Zoe. But yeah, if you're getting fitter, stamina. Yeah, in terms of running, distance, yeah, like they're all sort of things maybe in running where you would get in cardio where there would be progression. But in terms of weightlifting, you've got, what about lifting it with better form? That's a form of progression. What about, and I think one of the things you girls are covering there is tempo or time under tension. So for example, if I banged out 10 reps and I was taking 1 second to get from the top back down to the bottom, or if I was taking 3 seconds to get down to the bottom and my muscles are working for longer, what's going to be better for progression? The time under tension. So you've got weights, reps, form, tempo. They tend to be the main ones. And then what about, again, if I went and added in another set? So here we were doing 2 sets. What about if in 2 weeks' time I added a third set in? Therefore, your total volume on that exercise is more. So there's loads and loads of different ways to progress. So think about all of this if you're doing your own programs. And again, if you're thinking, oh, what I'll do is I'll just keep the ELIMIN8 programs and change them up, understand there's different ways. And if you want to learn more, obviously reach out to me and we can talk a bit more about further lines of progression in terms of training. So, but that's probably a good introduction into workouts and how to structure your own workouts and different lines of progression. There's always going to be more and more progression. So just think about, this is why people like to me as well, like why do you still coach? Why have you still got a coach? And it's because there's always more to learn. There's always more to benefit from. There's different lines of progression that I've not heard of, and one, I enjoy it. So that is all of that on that front. Any questions on training or programming that anyone wants to ask? I can quickly run back through it. So the main things are, you probably want 12 to 18 sets across a week per exercise. The muscle groups you want to work more, you probably want to hit more sets on, and like in terms of like you drive through 18 sets on your chest if you're trying to grow your chest, and then things like that, your biceps, triceps, you probably do more 12 sets on. And you probably want to split them sets over 2 days, 2 to 3, up to 4 times per week, for example, over full bodies. And then look at the different forms of progression in terms of weight, reps, etc., etc. Any questions on this? Anyone thinking, why the hell is he giving all this information away for free? Well, no, we're good. So reason I do sort of provide you so much information and things like that is it's all available to you already. Like, it is literally available to you already. And with AI, I don't know if anyone's looked into AI yet or used it for anything. Hannah, you probably could have used it for your dissertation. Mariko's nodding at me. You can literally go on Google now and go on AI ChatGPT and say, write me in a 4-day glute focused workout with 6 exercises per day, and it will write you a program. You can literally get it to write your emails. You can get it to write your content. I think it is good, and I do think it's going to replace Hannah said yeah, AI, and it said no. I do think it's going to be very, very good. And the reason I still provide all this information is, one, it's already available. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, and your TikTok, the new one, you can get all these things readily available to you. But the biggest thing that I see with anything is accountability. and reassurance. They're two things that you're not going to get from AI. How many of you have been to physio, come back from physio with a load of exercise and never done them? I'll hold my hands up. I complain every single day about my shoulders. I've been to massage, I've been to physio, I've got all the exercises, and I've not once done my physio. I've asked my physio if I can literally use him as a PT and say, I'll come see you 45 minutes a week and we just do my shoulder exercises. He's like, why'd you do that? I was like, because if I don't do it, I won't do it. So it is the accountability side. So accountability isn't just from me. Like, I'm not saying the only way you're going to see progression is if you sign up with me as a coach. It's understand where your accountability comes from. Is it your friendship groups? Is it having someone there keeping you like accountable in terms of like family saying like how you getting on doing this? Is it friends? Is it communities? Like, there's 100 different ways, but I do think one of the biggest things that I'll ever see with progression or people no longer progressing is accountability. So if things after Eliminate aren't going the way you want and you're not still progressing, just think, is it because you've lost that accountability? And before you start going further backwards, definitely drop me a message and I'll tell you how to continue progressing. Because like I said, I want people not only to lose weight, I want them to keep it off. And that is the biggest thing that I say with Eliminate. So coming into the last bit of today's call is next steps. We will cover that next week and how to up your food and all things like that. But this week, and I know I touched on it at the start of the call, is stick to what you know worked and prepare yourself to come into post-diet, etc., mindset. A couple of you doing the photo shoot we'll talk about that because obviously your food won't be going up next week. But it's like, prepare yourself energy-wise and things like that and structure-wise. Do you have all the things in place? So you've been given all the information across Eliminate over the last 8 weeks to set yourself up. You've been told to have your ideal week sorted, told to have your food structure sorted, told how to make the most out of the nutrients, learn how to put programs together. All of that is there. Now put all that together and think, right, are you in a position to keep moving forward and put yourself in it so that you do not go backwards? Because I genuinely care about that. So make sure you're in a position to do so. And it will come from this week. Most people going into the last week take their foot off the gas and start, we can probably see that with the numbers on the call, is that start thinking, right, I'm going to start winding down from this diet phase. You want to go into this week and you want to give it your all. You want to make sure you know how, because if you know how to hit protein, and you know how to stay within calories, and you know how to get 20 plus grams of fiber at this low amount, what's going to happen when food goes up? If you can keep that in and then start increasing your food, you're only going to feel better. You're only going to get more energy. Your recovery is only going to be better. Your performance is only going to be better. So use this week to propel yourself into future progression. Any questions for me on anything across Eliminate? Any questions on programming, diet, what to do this week? Anything at all that might help for going into the final week? 3, 2, 1. No questions. So what I'm going to do, final week, we're going to run a final challenge, and it's going to be in and around nutrients and fiber. So I'll put the rules in the group, but the idea is who can create the best dish, so whether it be like a salad, a stir fry, etc., with the most variety of nutrients in it, with the most fiber. So for example, you might create a salad with 5 different vegetables in it with 20 grams, you do 20 grams of fiber in one dish, you're doing it excellent. And you might do like 10 grams of fiber, 300 calories, 5 different vegetables in that salad, and the challenge is to get the most out of your nutrients. So that's the challenge for that. By doing that challenge, you're obviously going to put yourself in the best position to obviously stay full and stay energized going into this last week of Eliminate. But with no questions, and before I wrap up, You have done exceptionally well to get this far. I say it all the time, 7 weeks, 8 weeks of a diet isn't easy by any means. So to still be going, still making progress is absolutely exceptional. You should be proud of yourselves for how well you've done. Going into the last week, enjoy it. I will be obviously sending out some stuff on ELIMIN8 of like what you enjoyed the most, etc. So that'll all come out this week, but we'll hold off on that for the moment because I just want you to focus on getting more and more progress this week, basically. So have a wonderful evening. Very well done for getting this far. One last push. Enjoy it, and I will speak to you all during the week and obviously next week as well. Have a wonderful evening, guys.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Logan.
Cheers, guys.